Jehovah's Witnesses governing body announced not too long ago that they're allowed to speak to disfellowshipped people. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people like me who've been burned so hard by family that there's no going back. I will never have a relationship with my mom again. Never. Because of how disgusting her behavior has been over the past 20 years. Assuming that your family members are willing to speak to you. Would you do it? Would you talk to them? Now, just to clarify, Jehovah's Witnesses did not stop shunning. They changed their rules to allow people who are in the religion to say hello to disfellowshipped family members. People who are opposed to the religion, like myself, apostates, are still not exempted from the shunning rule. I don't know what my mom was talking about. Maybe she interpreted it that way, but that's not the rule for general Jehovah's Witnesses. They are loosening it up, though. I haven't had a relationship with my mom in 20 years or something, since I was like a teenager, a young teenager. Jehovah's Witnesses governing body announced not too long ago that they're allowed to speak to disfellowshipped people. That was the governing body, though. And who watches everything the governing body puts out? Some, certainly, but not all. They have to announce it at a Kingdom Hall before it's like officially followed by everybody. Well, Jehovah's Witnesses just announced at their Kingdom Halls that you can speak to disfellowshipped people again, officially. You know why? Because they're being banned in a billion different places over and over and over. Like Norway, I believe, banned them from being from getting tax benefits, basically. They can practice their religion. They just can't, get paid from it because they shun people. Russia banned them because they shun people and because they treat, disfellowship people like complete trash. They mark them as an extremist organization. I think Russia's goals may have been a little bit more cynical than that. Maybe they're just trying to decrease the holds that Jehovah's Witnesses have over the people in favor of the Russian Orthodox Church. I don't know. Anyway, either way, Jehovah's Witnesses being banned from a billion different countries right now. Banned from being a religion at the very least, even if they can still practice. You know, she kind of showed me who she really is in the past 20 years. I don't think I want anything to do with it, truthfully. Additionally, they may be able to talk to ex-Jehovah's Witnesses again, but they're not allowed to my knowledge, they're not allowed to go to any services or, they're not allowed to go to any weddings of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses or non-Jehovah's Witnesses. They're not allowed to go to funerals or any other service of any sort that's pagan, quote unquote, non-Jehovah's Witness, basically. And these people have Jehovah programmed right into their heads. They have for 100 years or more. 150 years. 150 years. They've had this programmed into their heads. My mom doesn't know how to separate her Jehovah's Witness personality from her regular personality, like who she is when she lays her head on the pillow at night. She is not Jennifer Morgan anymore. She's Jennifer Morgan, Jehovah's Witness. The two personalities are inextricably linked. So anyway, if I spoke to my mom again, it would be nothing but Jehovah's Witness shit 24/7. And if not Jehovah's Witness shit, it'd be like religious shit 24/7. She doesn't know how to just be a normal human being, is my point. And that's the problem with a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses. You know why? Because they have something they call the new personality, quote unquote. I'm not even joking. That's what Jehovah's Witnesses call it, the new personality. The new personality, that expression occurs twice in the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures. Not really, but okay. It refers to a personality that is created according to God's will. Developing such a new personality is within our reach. Why? Because Jehovah created humans in his image and thus made it possible for us to reflect on his beautiful qualities. I'm not going to go through this whole thing right now, but Jehovah is not God's name. It was Yahweh. Jades didn't exist until the 1400s. True, because of the imperfection we inherited from our first parents, Adam and Eve, I guess, we are affected by wrong desires. We may also have been deeply influenced by our environment. Yet, with Jehovah's merciful help, we can succeed in becoming the sort of person he wants us to be. To strengthen our desire to reach that goal, we'll consider several aspects of the new personality that the Apostle Paul was inspired to write about. We will also consider how we can demonstrate these aspects in our ministry. So, the point is that they completely change their personality around, morph it into something totally different. Just to, recap Jehovah's Witness shunning policy real quick. I wrote a whole book about this, by the way. Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, owenmorgan.com. You can find it on Amazon, Audible. Anyway, to recap their beliefs about shunning. You can't have any part in a disfellowship person's life, or even disassociated. They changed the rules back in, I think, the 70s or the 80s, when a governing body member left the religion. He was hanging out with a disassociated person, I believe, somebody who sent a letter to the society and said, I don't want anything to do with this group anymore, so take me off your membership rolls. It wasn't against the rules to speak to disassociated people until this governing body member, Ray Franz, left the religion. They had nothing to disfellowship him over because he didn't do anything wrong except for leave. But he had a ton of incriminating evidence and information on the governing body. So they changed the rules to say you can't speak to a disassociated person either. And then they disfellowshipped him. And now he's shunned. Anyway, since then, shunning has been in full effect. Honestly, since 1952, shunning has been in full effect. Hilariously, before 1952, though, in 1947, they wrote an article about shunning. And I just so happen to have the article right here. Are you also excommunicated? If you're one of the 138,000 people in the world that were born and raised as Protestants, then you are already excommunicated by the Roman Catholic hierarchy. Oh yeah, they've always hated Catholics. It's weird. This means that you're looked upon with the blackest contempt by the Vatican, being cursed and damned with the devil and his angels. I mean, that's a little bit like on the nose, isn't it? Says the Catholic Encyclopedia, with the foregoing exceptions, infidels, pagans, Mohammedans, and Jews, all who've been baptized are liable to excommunication, even those Protestants who've never belonged to the true church, since by their baptism they are really her subjects, though of course rebellious ones. So, the point is that Jehovah's Witnesses were opposed to excommunication in 1947. 1952 rolls around. Nathan Knorr, the president of that time, starts pushing disfellowshipping, or starts pushing shunning on people, basically. And it all went downhill from there. Ray Franz, that governing body member that left in the 80s, I believe. Yeah, May 22nd, 1980 is when he left the religion. Anyway, his uncle, Fred Franz, was the vice president at the time when the disfellowshipping stuff turned to shunning in the 50s. Fred Franz took over as president in 1975, and in 1980, his nephew gets kicked off the governing body, or leaves the governing body, I guess. And he goes on a manhunt to destroy this dude's life. It is nuts. The point here is Jehovah's Witnesses don't differentiate between black and white, short or small, young or old, family or non-family. They differentiate between Jehovah's Witness and non-Jehovah's Witness. And if you leave the religion, that's it. You're done. It's how it's been since the 50s. So 75 years of full-blown shunning. Then, in the 60s, about 10 years into the shunning policy, they changed the rules to not just require people not to speak to outsiders who are not Jehovah's Witnesses or who've been disfellowshipped or whatever. They changed it to limit your association with people who've never been involved in the religion, and don't ever call the police. The cops should never be involved in private church business. And that's the loophole that allowed countless people to take advantage of children completely unopposed for decades. That rule right there is the thing that got them sued for hundreds of millions of dollars, forced them to sell their headquarters and move to a cheaper area and everything. Anyway, that rule still hasn't been fully undone. So Jehovah's Witness history of shunning is long and disturbing. And it seems like now that they're getting pushback from Norway and Russia and a bunch of other countries, and they're having their religious status removed, so now they can't perform marriages, now they have to pay their taxes, now they don't get a stipend from the government. Apparently in Norway, I believe every single religion gets a stipend from the government proportional to the number of members that they have. So the Catholic Church has, say, 3 million members. They get $3 million a year. Jehovah's Witnesses have 500,000 members. They get 500,000 a year. Those aren't correct numbers. I'm just throwing it out there. They wrote this article right here on shunning. Do Jehovah's Witnesses shun those who used to belong to their religion? Those who are baptized as Jehovah's Witnesses but no longer preach to others, perhaps even drifting away from association with fellow believers, are not shunned. In fact, we reach out to them and try to rekindle their spiritual interest. That's not what anybody said. No one was talking about inactive people. That's what this is about. This is about people who drifted away from association and just stopped going in service. There's a word for that. And it's not disfellowship. So what about disfellowship people? You going to tell us about those? I don't care how you treat inactive people. I care about the disfellowshipped ones. We do not automatically disfellowship someone who commits a serious sin. Did anybody say that? Who said that you disfellowship people automatically? We're talking about how you treat disfellowship people. Are you serious right now? This is such a... This article was written by a weasel, right? Whoever, storyboarded this thing, drafted the outline or whatever, knew what they were doing. If, however, a baptized witness makes a practice of breaking the Bible's moral code and does not repent, he or she will be shunned or disfellowshipped. Okay, that's what the world was wondering. Nobody gave a shit about any of that other stuff. The Bible clearly states, remove the wicked man from among yourselves. Yeah, it does say that, but they're completely ignoring the fact that Paul wrote that to the Corinthian congregation because some people were bragging about sleeping with their stepmother. This dude was sleeping with his stepmother, and he's bragging about it in church. Another dude was sleeping with a prostitute and bragging about it. And he was like, wow, this makes Christians look bad, and we are a really young religion. We better nip this in the bud. So he wrote that in his first letter to the Corinthian congregation. The Corinthians wrote back, and they said, okay, we did what you said. This is wrong. This is not right. We should not be shunning people like this. Paul responds, and he says, you're right. What you've done is sufficient, quote unquote. You don't need to cause undue sorrow. You don't have to shun anymore. That's not, we don't want to do that. And Paul never brought up shunning again in any of his stuff. So they're selectively picking out verses that support the positions that they currently hold and ignoring the follow-ups or the rebuttals or the other verses that contradict it, is the point here. Anyway, I am not breaking the moral code, quote unquote, of Jehovah's Witnesses. I had a girlfriend when I was 18, and I smoked a cigarette. I was kind of, losing my mind for a while there. It took me about 6 months to pull it together, basically. And then I married the girl, and I wasn't living in sin anymore. For the next 15 years, I wasn't living in sin in any way. So, why did they continue to shun me anyway, despite the fact that I wasn't living in sin in their mind? It's not because they only shun people who violate their moral code repeatedly and don't repent. I was repentant. It's that they shun people who are disfellowshipped, bottom line. What of a man who's disfellowshipped, but whose wife and children are still Jehovah's Witnesses? The religious ties he had with his family change, but blood ties remain. The marriage relationship and normal family affections and dealings continue. Yeah, so they've changed this too. Again, wrote about this at length in my book. They have very specific expectations for what's supposed to happen if your husband gets disfellowshipped and doesn't want anything to do with anything anymore. The answer is you are justified in, nay, obligated to leave him, because those are one of the 3 justifications for leaving a husband. Adultery justifies divorce. That's the only thing that justifies divorce. The things that justify separation, though, are physical abuse, physical willful non-support, like he won't get a job, but he can work, and willful spiritual non-support, which means he's just not interested in going to the Kingdom Hall anymore. So they can say this all they want, but when you just look into their literature a little bit and look at how their people actually act in these types of situations, they're just lying. They're just not telling the truth. Maybe they put this in some dusty book somewhere, this rule. This is not what dictates culture right here. Also, say a kid gets baptized at 7. Not common, because kids usually wait until about 12 to get baptized, in my experience. Kind of like confirmation in the Catholic Church. But, they encourage people to get baptized at 7 or 8 years old. Say a kid gets baptized at 7 or 8. They get a girlfriend in school at 13. They get disfellowshipped because they're not supposed to have a girlfriend in school. What happens? The answer is the kid isn't allowed to eat dinner with the family anymore. They have to eat in another room. Because this verse they quoted here, 1 Corinthians 5:13, says you should not even dine with such a man, or something to that effect. Kids are sequestered to other areas of the house when certain activities or events are taking place, like eating or discussing religion in any capacity or whatever. I don't want to hear any of this BS about how disfellowship people are treated just fine and given every chance. So, continuing to try to defend themselves against the charge that they shun people, even though they already said it, they continue. Disfellowshipped individuals may attend our religious services. If they wish, they may also receive spiritual counsel from congregation elders. The goal is to help each individual once more to qualify to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah, Jehovah's not real. You're not one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You are a Jehovah's Witness, a member of the religion of Jehovah's Witnesses, because Jehovah's fictitious. It was never God's name, but whatever. Not going to go down that road right now. Disfellowship people are allowed to attend services, but I'll tell you what happened last time I attended one. I had a best friend, Shun is his name. Best friend from 15 years old to 18. Did everything together, hung out, skated, and the whole 9 yards, all of it. Not when I got disfellowshipped, but when I kind of started falling off a little bit and not attending meetings as regularly as I had been previously. All communication with Sean ended. I was so close with his parents. They were like my second parents. They knew shit that nobody else knew about my family and me. They were real close to me. The last meeting I went to was, 10 years ago maybe. I saw Sean's parents there, sat behind him. At the end of the meeting, they stood up and they turned around and smiled at me. And Sean's dad shook my hand. They didn't say a word to me. They turned around again, continued on their merry way doing their thing. Because it's against the rules to speak to a disfellowship person. It's always been against the rules to do that. If somebody sees you doing that, you can be disfellowshipped for it. It is a sin in their eyes. So yeah, I can attend religious services, but going to one of their meetings entails being shunned for 2 hours straight. People that you grew up with, that you knew your entire life, not looking you in the eye, facing the other direction, giving you a wide berth, walking around you. That sucks. Nobody would ever want to go to a Kingdom Hall if they're disfellowshipped. Nobody wants to. I knew a woman who got disfellowshipped named Liz. She cheated on her husband. Anyway, long story. She got disfellowshipped, and she showed up to the Kingdom Hall every single meeting from that moment on. She was even at her disfellowshipping announcement because she wanted to get one over on her husband, basically. He had cheated on her, and this is so ridiculously out of this world wrong for Jehovah's Witnesses. I can't even believe that they let her back in so quickly, but she went to every single meeting for 6 months, and she got reinstated. Those 6 months of going to the meeting were spent sitting alone. She had, I think, 2 kids, maybe. Well, one of them was Lindsay. She had a niece named Jacqueline, and she had other family members there. I don't remember who else. Well, Lindsay's like 14 or something. Jacqueline's like 19. And they can't be anywhere around her at the meeting. They intentionally sit multiple seats away. She's sitting in a corner with nobody around her because no one wants to, come near her lest it rub off on them. That is the kind of shit that happens with Jehovah's Witnesses. Again, I don't care what they put on paper here. It's irrelevant. People shun family members. They shun children. A 14-year-old can't sit next to her mother, really. I mean, she could. Technically, they're allowed to, but it ruins her reputation in the congregation because she's not trying to maintain a distance from her mom who is disfellowshipped. This religion turns family members against each other. I know. Anyway, it says the goal is to help each individual once more to qualify to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. A Jehovah's Witness. Disfellowship people who reject improper conduct and demonstrate a sincere desire to live by the Bible's standards are always welcome to become Jehovah's Witnesses again. Bottom line, first of all, this article is on their website, which means it's current active doctrine right now. Unless it's been retracted or changed or something, or corrected, it's active doctrine. Just like it's banned to go to the Olympics. Oh my God, I have this whole list in my book. I'm sorry, look at the list here, because it's deeply entertaining. Yeah, this is my book right here. This is a book cover. I designed it to look like Jehovah's Witness literature. I hope I did an okay job at that. Okay, I have a big list here of things that are banned for Jehovah's Witnesses. On the list are the Olympics. It's apparently banned because the games are kicked off by lighting a torch. It's of Greek origin rather than Christian origin, which makes it pagan in their eyes. Weddings, throwing rice, throwing the bouquet, wedding marches. Democracy is pagan. You're not allowed to take part in democracy to any degree. Theocracy is the only acceptable form of government. Mazes and labyrinths are pagan in their mind. The cross, the concept of hell is pagan, although it's actually of Christian origin, but that's a story for another day. The immortality of the soul is pagan. Clerical celibacy, philosophy is pagan. Offering incense to the dead, throwing soil into a grave, drawing halos on religious figures. The twist, the dance, the twist, and other forms of dancing, banned. Their active current doctrine on their website. Anyway, the point is that this is still technically held up by everybody, but apparently my mom told my kid that they announced from the stage last month that they can talk to disfellowship people again. I have to wonder, are they allowed to attend weddings? Are they allowed? If I go to the Kingdom Hall, will they speak to me? Because they have very specific instructions for what people are supposed to do if a disfellowship person shows up at the Kingdom Hall, and it's not even that old. It's like from last year. This one just came out, although it was actually a hidden video because it went up to their website, I think, for like a day, and then they took it down immediately because it was interfering with the court case. It was contradicting the lies that they were telling in the courtroom. They, I assume, hoped nobody would notice that it went up, but we got a copy.
Abel was essentially a spiritual orphan, but regardless of what his parents chose, he listened to Jehovah and patiently waited on him to fulfill his promises.
I never thought of it that way. What has Jehovah promised me if I patiently wait?
Nothing, because Jehovah isn't real. God's name was Yahweh.
Spiritual brothers? Sisters?
Dude, did you see that sick mustache on that guy? Look at that badass mustache. I wish I could have something like that. Anyway, when she's doing this, looking at brothers, she says spiritual brothers. She's thinking about having a husband. And she says sisters. She's thinking about having a family. They call themselves brothers and sisters because they are your family now. Those lines are drawn between non-Jehovah's Witness and Jehovah's Witness now.
Sisters? And mothers.
You seeing this? This is what I'm talking about right here. I don't even need to tell stories about it. Like, they're just portraying it. I assume that's her mom? I don't know. Oh, wait a minute. No, I remember now. I think in this video, her mom was disfellowshipped, and she wishes that her mom was there again or something, right? I should just shut my f***ing mouth and let the video play instead of opening it.
If I focus on what I do have and wait patiently...
I remember, yeah. She's shunning her mom. And she looked to this woman when she said mothers because she has found a mother to replace her dead, disfellowshipped one. In her mind, dead. Disfellowshipped mom. This woman is supposed to replace her mom because she's a Jehovah's Witness. That is psychotic.
Someday, what I don't have may even come back to Jehovah.
Yeah, that didn't really fit into the narrative they were trying to build at court in Norway, that they don't shun. Oops. I mean, they've been doing videos about this for, like, ever. Again, that one was only, like, a year old. It came out May 23rd, 2023, I believe, or in May somewhere. Here's an example of a family giving a presentation or whatever. They do this at their Kingdom Halls sometimes or at their conventions more commonly. They have a family who's gone through some kind of an ordeal, and they get them up there and have them, they ask them questions, they interview them about it. Like, at one point, I think they had, like, concentration camp inmates basically come up there and describe what it was like being in this concentration camp and remaining loyal to Jehovah and all that other junk, that kind of thing. It's supposed to, like, grip your heart. Listen to what this one was.
Melody is 10 years old, and she was baptized late last year.
She's 10. She's baptized last year at 9.
So I have a couple of questions for you, Melody. First of all, what specific fear has at times challenged you in your service to Jehovah?
What fear has challenged you in your service to Jehovah?
Well, a specific fear deals with one of my sisters who is disfellowshipped.
A sister's disfellowshipped. I'm sorry, I'm repeating some of this if you can't understand because it's kind of scratchy.
Who is disfellowshipped, and she contacted me before my baptism and was encouraging me to keep in contact with her.
She's encouraging her to keep in contact with her before she got baptized. Interesting. Isn't it interesting that these people just understand? This isn't weird to them. They just get it. Oh, yeah, totally. I can see a disfellowship person saying that to you because, you know, we shun. We've always shunned. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's not like they're saying, what? Why would she say such a thing? This is part of the culture. It always has been since the 50s.
I do miss her and love her. I know that if I didn't reach in contact with her, it would be difficult to stop communicating with her if I started.
So she decided not to communicate at all because it'd be difficult to stop communicating if she started. Her sister.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. Now, Melanie, how has Jehovah helped you overcome that fear?
I'm sorry. How has Jehovah helped you overcome that fear is what he said, I think.
Well, Jehovah has helped me cope in many ways. He gave me the courage to stand up to her and tell her that I couldn't communicate with her at all because
He gave me the courage to stand up to her and tell her
that I couldn't communicate with her at all
because I can't communicate with her anymore.
Because I didn't want her in a relationship with Jehovah. And he also left me with so much sorrow and loneliness.
God, there's some D-bag in the background coughing. Like, quit coughing, Jesus.
And he also left me with so much sorrow and loneliness and missing her. So growing my relationship with Jehovah,
Something about meth?
through prayer and study, has really helped with this and all my fears.
Yeah, I don't understand. The point is that these people automatically assume that you're going to shun family members who are disfellowship. This is about 7 years old. This is exactly how it's been for me the entire time, since I left all the way to this moment. And I just get a text message from my kid, who's with my mom right now, saying, Grandma says that they announced from the stage last month that they don't have to that they don't have to shun disfellowship family members anymore. They don't like the word shun. She didn't say that. She said that they can talk to disfellowship's family members. They didn't even say now. They just said they can talk to them. So this is a super sensitive subject they don't like talking about because they know that they're in the wrong in this case. Jehovah's Witnesses do. It wasn't part of the original religion. Wasn't part of the founders' vision for what it would be in the future. Wasn't part of the next president's vision either. It wasn't until President number 3, 75 years after the religion started, that they changed it. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people like me who've been burned so hard by family that there's no going back. I will never have a relationship with my mom again. Never. Because of how disgusting her behavior has been over the past 20 years. If you're a disfellowship Jehovah's Witness, are you going to talk to your family again after what they did? Assuming that your family members are willing to speak to you. Would you do it? Would you talk to them? Let me know in the comments.